Mr. Chair, we apologize for the delay. The admin staff was trying all their best to correct your file so that it must measure up to the chairperson standards.
Yes, no, that's fine. I don't know whether they had finished or not, but I didn't want us to delay longer than 5 minutes because I had said we would be back here at 15:15, and I didn't want us to delay too long because when we say we are going to be back at 15:15, we must be back at 15:15 unless we announce a further delay properly. So if they didn't finish, then they can use the lunch break to try and finish. Mr. Jonas, you are still under oath. I won't be reminding you each time we have had a break, but just do know that the oath you have taken will apply until you have finished your evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Mkwena.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Jonas, I'm going to request you to please, when you read the documents, read them slowly.
Okay.
And then please also when you give your clarities on any other issue, please do that slowly so that you can be able to follow your evidence. At some point, Mr. Jonas, you did interact with the Hawks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could you please share with us your interaction and the circumstances that led to you interacting with the Hawks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A further article appeared in the Sunday Times on the 3rd April 2016, which reported that I had alleged that the Gupta family had offered me the position of Minister of Finance in the place of Mr. Nene in 2015. I was subsequently contacted by General Benning Ntlameza of the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation, the Hawks, pursuant to a complaint which had been made by Mr. Bloom and Mr. Mainir. He asked me to provide a statement and said that we need a statement from you to help us finalize this case. He told me that they were working on a statement for me and that Major General Mnonopi would contact me in this regard.
Did you ask him at that stage what he meant by saying that to finalize the case?
I didn't at that point.
Okay, may proceed.
I was subsequently approached by Mr. Mnonopi, Major General Mnonopi, also of the Hawks. She initially phoned me on the 20th June 2016 and informed me that she was investigating the complaints which had been laid by Mr. Bloom and Mr. Mainir. The spelling of Mr. Mainir is wrong, if you allow me to.
Yes, could you please correct it? Should it be the same as the one in paragraph 52?
Yes, it should be Maynier.
Yes.
And she said that the complaints related to allegations of corruption and that the complainant, Mr. Mainir, referred to the Sunday Times article of the 3rd, 2016, and the complainant, Mr. Bloom, referred to my media statement. She said she was coming to see me at Treasury with a prepared statement. At that point, I called Mr. Mcebisi Jonas, my attorney, to ask him to be present at this meeting. Major General Mnonopi told us that this was I quote, a DA matter, unquote, and that I did not want to help the DA, and that they wanted to kill the case.
What is this matter that was referred to as a DA matter?
I assume the Mainir's complaint.
Yes.
She said that the statement had been settled by the advocate who was a prosecutor, I assumed within the National Prosecution Authority, who believed that it would kill the case. She said that she said to us that, when I say us, I mean to me and my lawyer, that we need your statement as a matter of formality. As there is no case, it is necessary in order for us to close the matter. Your statement must state that you are not a witness for anyone and that you do not want to make a statement as such. A copy of the draft statement which she brought with her is attached, marked Annex A.
Mr. Jonas, let me take you back to paragraph 54. When Major General Mnonopi said all these things, was she aware that she was saying them in front of your attorney, Mr. Max Pokwana?
I was up front. When she came in, I introduced Mr. Max Pokwana as my attorney. In addition to that, she apparently know Mr. Pokwana from the Eastern Cape. So there was no unclarity about Mr. Pokwana's presence in the meeting.
Yes. You had paragraph 55?
A copy of the draft statement, as I was saying, is which she brought with her, is attached, marked Annex A. And the draft statement contained the following paragraph. I quote, "During our engagement, she informed me that I am cited as a witness in both cases, and for that reason, a detailed statement is required from me. I responded to her that I am not prepared to submit a statement, as I never opened a case against anyone, and I do not intend opening any case. Further, I'm not a witness to any person. We, the investigating officer and myself, later made an agreement to meet as for such affidavit. Today I met with the investigating officer as arranged, and I still maintain my position that I do not have any statement in this regard. That is all I wish to say," unquote. And that was the statement we were asked to sign.
Before you proceed, in that paragraph you are referring to the Annex A. If you may please turn with me to page 122 of the bundle, Mr. Chair. Are you there?
Yeah.
Is this the statement that you were required to sign that was brought by General Mnonopi?
Yes, it is.
Now, it is important to record the contents of that statement because this statement, I take it, was not drafted by yourself or by your attorney. Am I correct?
Yes, it was.
You were simply meant to sign this statement.
Yes, I was.
And by signing it, it would have meant that you agreed to the contents of that statement.
Yes, indeed.
Now, could you share with the chairperson the contents of the statement which you were required to sign by General Mnonopi? If you can start from paragraph 3.
Paragraph 3, which is during our engagement.
Page 122.
Yes, okay. I, the undersigned,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mkwena. I'm struggling with my bundle here, as you know. It hasn't been arranged in a way that's going to make things easy. Just help me again where that statement is.
It's on page 122, Mr. Chair.
Well,
Yes. It's not.
there is the pagination that has been done with a marker. Is that the one I'm supposed
If
to
you
follow?
go towards the end of the bundle itself, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
and follow the pagination on the top right-hand corner of the page,
You see the
Yeah,
pagination that has been done by a marker goes up to page 94, and after that, or no, 95, okay, just that for a number of pages, it was done on the right-hand corner.
There is, yes.
But from a certain
The
point, they
pagination
do
on
it
the right-hand side is
they do it on the left-hand side, so that's confusing.
I thought it was corrected, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, no, not yet. You said 122.
122, and that will be on the top right-hand corner of the page.
Maybe the pagination was started by a right-handed person, and later on a left-handed person took over.
Yes. The old pagination reflects the pagination as at the court papers, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay. No, I've got it. Thank you very
We
much.
apologize for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jonas, as I've said that, I hope that you are having a correct pagination. You are on page 122.
I am.
Yes. Is that the statement which was brought by General Mlonopi,
Yeah, yes,
which
it is.
you were required to sign?
Yes, it is.
Can you please read on the record from paragraph 3 of the statement for us to appreciate what you are required to sign?
I wish to state that on 2016, 06/20, I had a telephonic conversation with Major General Mlonopi of the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation, who informed me that she is investigating 2 cases opened by one, Mr. Dennis Victor Bloom of the Congress of the People, and Mr. David John Menir, who is a member of the National Assembly of the Republic of South Africa. She further informed me that the allegations are of corruption emanating from Sunday Times article dated 13th April 2016, as cited by Menir, where the Gupta family offered me a position of Minister of Finance to replace the then Minister Nene, while Mr. Bloom made reference to the media briefing made on the 16th of March 2016 on the same subject matter. It proceeds during...
I'm sorry, Mr. Jonas, before you proceed. I see that in that paragraph, the article in the Sunday Times that is referred to is said to have been on the 13th of April 2016. I think in your statement, you may have referred to a Sunday Times article that appeared on the 3rd of April. Do you know whether...
I think
you are not sure.
We might settle the date. I
Yeah.
don't recall the date.
Okay, all right.
During our engagement, she informed me that I am cited as a witness in both cases, and for that reason, a detailed statement is required from me. I responded to her that I am not prepared to submit any statement, as I never opened any case against anyone, and I don't intend opening it in any way. I don't intend opening any. Further, I'm not a witness to any person. We, in brackets, the investigating officer and myself later made an agreement to meet for such an affidavit. Today I met with the investigating officer as arranged, and I still maintain my position that I don't have any statement in this regard. That is all I wish to say.
And this is the statement that you refuse to sign?
Yes.
Yes. Now, if you may go back to paragraph 54, you have referred, she also informed you that the statement was settled by an advocate. Was the identity of that advocate revealed to you?
It was, but I don't recall the name. It was an Afrikaans name.
Okay. All right, you may proceed with your... Paragraph 56.
I refused to sign the prepared statement which she brought with her. I was at that point not surprised by the approach adopted by the Hawks, given the extent to which I believe the institution to be compromised. I did not accede to the request that I should not provide an affidavit. On the 19th July 2016, I provided the Hawks with a short affidavit confirming the content of the media statement which I had made on the 16th. And I must also state that in that affidavit, we also stated upfront that since the stated intention was to kill the case, we think that the media statement was enough probably to do that. And it was still part of our view that we could not continue to interact with them. The Directorate of Priority Crime Investigations, the Hawks, through Major General Menotti, then subsequently requested me to respond to certain specific questions on the 5th September 2016, followed up with an email on 20 September 2016. I accordingly provided a subsequent affidavit which was signed.
A supplementary, I think you meant to say
supplementary,
that. Yes.
A supplementary affidavit, and contained the following statements. 5.7, the purpose of the offer was not communicated to me. 5.72, Mr. Ajay Gupta was present at the meeting, which was held on 23rd October. 5.7, the persons present at the meeting were Mr. Duduzane Zuma and Mr. Fana Hlongwana. 5.7.4, as stated in the statement submitted to the media, the only person who spoke was Ajay Gupta. 5.75, there was no records of the meeting of which I am aware. 5.76, I was invited to the meeting by Mr. Duduzane Zuma, and from there, Mr. Duduzane Zuma suggested a more quiet place, which transpired to be the Gupta residence, though I did not become aware of this until arriving at the premise. 5.77, I was contacted telephonically to arrange the meeting, and 5.78, the meeting was scheduled at Hyatt and moved to Gupta residence as stated.
Now, what we have just read into the record were the answers to the questions that were specifically asked by the Hawks.
Subsequent questions
Yes.
she asked.
You were also interviewed by the previous public protector, Advocate Thuli Madonsela. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Yes. I will be referring you to certain portions of the transcript of your interview in order to confirm some of the aspects of your testimony. May I refer you to the bundle, page 25, Mr. Chair?
Yes, thank you. Is that the one at 21?
25.
25.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The interview, Mr. Jonas, starts on page 21. Can you see that? And this is a transcript of your interview, which was held between yourself and the previous public protector.
Correct.
Yes. Now, I was referring you to page 25 with particular reference to line number 3, where if you ignore the first sentence, the second sentence, the public protector posed a question to you to say, the second question is the allegation that you had a meeting with the Gupta family. Did you have any meeting with the Gupta family? And if you turn to page 26, are you there?
I'm lost, actually.
Are you lost?
Yeah.
I don't want to lose you.
Well, I was lost too, just until now, because I thought
It's even worse
I thought
if I
he was
lose. It's
reading
even worse
from
if I lose the
beginning.
chairperson. Let's go back to page 25.
I'm on page 25.
Let's go on the left-hand side.
Okay.
There is numbering. I was referring you to line 23, right at the
I've got
bottom of the page.
23 or 13.
Are you there?
Okay, maybe it's going to help. Maybe Mr. Jonas has got something similar to what I have.
Yeah.
You see, at page 25, at what appears to be page 25, on the top right-hand corner of the page, you have 25 written there with a marker.
Yes.
On
And
the
5.
left-hand side, 25, on the left-hand side,
Yeah,
there's
24.
something that seems to have been like page 26, but it's not very clear. Next to where 25 is written, you have got 5.
It's a typed page 5.
Typed, yeah.
Yes.
So, Mr. Jonas, do we have the same thing, you and I?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So is that where you are as
That's
well?
where
Mr.
I am.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you. And you were reading from the bottom of
And,
page
and the
25.
margins are on the left-hand side.
Okay. I've got you now.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the folio
Yes,
numbers.
Yes.
And what I was referring to is folio number 23,
Okay.
line number 23.
Yeah.
Are you there, Mr. Jonas? Are
Yes,
you now
I am.
with me? And I have already read the question that was posed to you by the public protector. And you also, if you go to page 26, the next page,
Yes.
it's double-sided.
I can see.
On the top, what was your response?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Now, if I may refer you to the same page, page 26. Go to line number 12,
Yeah.
and the public protector poses a question to you, which for your benefit, I'll read to you. It says that, okay, we would appreciate it, say, who was present at that meeting? Then on line number 13 to 18, you answered. What was your answer?
I don't know the names of these guys, the Gupta guys, but I mean the meeting was arranged by Tutuzani Zuma, and after long messages and calls requesting to see me, so I eventually agreed to see him. We were supposed to meet. I thought it was a meeting with him on the message. When I arrived at the venue for our meeting, which was at Hyatt Hotel.
Now, you continue to answer that question on line number 23.
At Hyatt, he suggested that after almost like talking things that were not very clear, and I was getting irritated, I said, Chief, I'm rushing to the plane. So he said, no, there are other people that we have to meet, you have to meet. I said, where are they? He said, let's go. So we jumped into his car and we went to see to this compound somewhere in that area. It is in an area which, in that place, then I found Fana Hlongwane, and then it was Duduzane who, I don't know, I can't read. Who is this?
And the compound that you're referring to, which compound is that?
It's the Saxon World, the Gupta compound.
Yes. Now, the public protector, apparent from the transcript, did interview also in relation to what happened at the Gupta residence. And I'm referring also to the content of the conversation that took place at that place. May I refer you to page 29?
Okay.
And if you go to the bottom of the page from line number 18, are you there?
Yeah.
Could you please share with the chair what was your responses in that regard? Up until page 32. I'll tell you where to stop.
Okay. So we're busy chit-chatting. This guy came in and he was like, he just interrupted the discussion and started saying, we have been following you, we have been investigating you, we know everything about you, and so on, and so on. He told me that the old man seems to like me, and so on and so on. So we called you just to check you out. I mean...
And what was the reference to the old man? Who's the old man?
President Zuma.
Yes.
I mean, and so the old man had, and they talked a little bit about the ANC politics, critical with this person and that person. Then he kind of went further. You must understand that we are in control of everything. We are in control of NPA, we are in control of the Hawks, we are in control of National Intelligence Agency. So we are in full control, and the old man will do everything that we tell him to do. So I was actually a bit puzzled, taken aback, and he said, so the old man wants to make you Minister of Finance. So I said, unfortunately, I do not want to be Minister of Finance.
And thus far, this is what you have also related to the chairperson today.
Yes, I did.
Yes, proceed.
So he said, no, 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 no. You have to be a Minister of Finance because we want that. And you would have to work with us. And if you work with us, you will be very rich. And we can immediately offer you 600 million. He pointed it to Duzani. He says, and then he said, he has a house in Now. We built him a house in Dubai. He has already been there. The offer is safe. Whatever happens to you is safe. And it continues in that line. So he went on really in that kind of fashion. So I said to him, listen, I think I have to go, but let me just assure you, I'm not interested in working for you. And he kind of, it became a bit emotional. And I think at that point, he said, listen, do you know whom you are dealing with? So I stood up, and at that point, so he followed me. Just as I took a few steps, he followed me, and everybody stood up. It was like, I must confess at that time, he was on the verge of punching me in the face. But I took a few steps, and then he says, and it struck me that let me go back, let me turn. I said, listen, by the way, what do you do? Maybe it is easy to work with you, but tell me what you do. So he said at the moment, and this guy sounded very stupid, I must say, because he said at the moment, we have about 6 billion from Fiscus in different sources that we are getting from Fiscus, 6 billion rand. We want to push it to 8 billion, and we think you can be helpful in that regard. So I said, can I suggest something? I asked. I will come back only when I am not in a rush, break it down. What exactly do you do? That would be nice to look at what you do so that I can make a proper decision. And he said, no, 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 no. It is not, basically, it is not. You think it is illegal. He raised his voice. He said, you think it is illegal? Every that time we do in this, everything we do in this country, I think it is legal. We create jobs, blah, blah, blah. He went on. So I stood up and walked. So he followed me and pushed everybody to sit. And then he said, everybody must sit down. So he followed and dragged me into another, I thought it was a bar. He dragged into this bar. He says, do you have a bag? I can give you 600,000 now. So I said, listen, I don't want money. I don't want your money. I'm leaving now, and I'm rushing for a plane. So let's talk when you are ready.
If I recall your evidence, you say that at that stage, Duduzane, Zuma, and Hlongwane, Efana Hlongwane, were in the vicinity where they were able to hear what you were saying.
Of this. Yeah. They were hearing all of this. Because the guy was very boastful and loud, by the way. It was not a low voice. Tuesday, I said, Tuesday I'm coming back from the Eastern Cape on Sunday. We can meet on Tuesday so that you can give me an outline of exactly what exactly do you do. He said, okay. He calls Duduzane, now arrange that he comes back on Tuesday. Tell him to bring a bag. So I walked out and said, Duduzane, can you take me back to my guys? And so they gave me this, and they said, no. Duduzane is still basically in a meeting. They are still having a meeting. So I should jump into another car. So I left the place in that car, but I phoned Nene immediately, actually, after that. Hey, and I said, hey, I want to talk to you, man. There's something strange that happened. Unfortunately, Nene had left for KZN, so I said I will see you on Sunday. But we eventually met on Monday. So I gave him the account. I said, listen, Chief, these guys told me in no uncertain terms that we are going, and I just gave him a rough outline. Just to go back, on Sunday, because I was thinking, let me test this thing with somebody, because in my mind I was still not resigning at the time. So I phoned Praveen. He was in at the time. So I said, please, can you quickly see me? So I went to see him. I just gave him a broad outline saying something happened, and in broad terms, this is it, and I'm thinking about just tomorrow submitting my resignation and move out of this thing. So he said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Let's just sit and wait and see what happens. So on Monday, I informed Nene about the incident, so on and so on, and he equally jumped and said, I want to resign. I said, no, you can't resign. Let's stick around and see how these things go. So that is in a nutshell, and I give you the dates. I can give you the dates. I think you can see a couple of texts from Tutuzani.
Yes, and that's what you informed the public protector at the time during your interview. May I also refer you to some of the portions of the transcript of your interview in order to clarify some aspects of your evidence as well and to confirm what you have shared with the chairperson today. May you please refer to page 41?
Yeah.
You'll see page 41, there is a typed page 21. Are you there?
Yeah.
Are you there, Mr. Jonas?
You say 41
41.
or 21?
No,
41.
41.
Okay.
I was simply making it easy for him that there is
Yeah,
also
I'm
a typed page 21, a numbered typed page 21, but paginated 41.
I think it's it's the same, Mr. Jonas, arrangement like the page 25.
Yeah,
So,
I've got it.
yeah.
I've got it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. But before you proceed, Mr. Mkwena, to the extent that the witness said before the former public protector what he has already told us, would there be any need for him to repeat? Shouldn't you only ask him if there is something to clarify? I saw that part of quite a substantial part of what he was reading earlier on is something that he had already told us in his statement.
Mr. Chair, one is simply anticipating what would happen in the future once he's taken through his statement today and what he has said before the public protector. But if we are comfortable that maybe those issues would not arise, one would not have to deal with those specific paragraphs.
No. It is important that if he has related this story or he has related to different people on different occasions what happened to him in regard to that meeting and what happened at that meeting, it is important that his attention be drawn to all of those occasions. But what I'm suggesting is that it might not be necessary for him to read again exactly the same thing. What you might wish to do is to let him confirm that, for example, the transcript
Yes.
relating to his
I understand.
interview with the public protector correctly reflects what he said before
Yes.
the public protector, save in the following respects, if those have been picked up,
Yes.
or you can pick them up and then ask him about those so that he can just clarify those.
That will short circuit his evidence. Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you.
Mr. Jonas, if you can go to page 21, back to 21.
Page 21
Yeah.
of
The document starts
transcript.
from page 21. That is where your interview begins with the public protector,
Yeah.
and it goes up until page 89.
Yeah.
Did you have an opportunity to read that transcript? captures your interview with, I know that there are places where it says indistinct. We understand that there might be typing errors, but does it capture the essence of the interview between yourself?
Broadly, yes, sir. Broadly, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe, maybe because one knows what happens with these things. If Mr. Jonas hadn't had a chance to carefully go through that transcript and identify if there are areas that do not accurately reflect what he said, if he had not got that chance, maybe he should be given a chance to do so at some stage. That need not interrupt what we are doing. I'm just saying that because if cross-examination is allowed, he would be asked if there are discrepancies between what he has told this commission and what he may have told the public protector. So he needs to be given a chance to look at it very carefully and be able to say it is correct in the following respects, it is not correct in the following respects. But as I say, that need not derail what we are doing as long as he gets that chance at some stage.
Yes, Mr. Chair. He has already confirmed, subject to what Mr. Chair have indicated, that he'll be given that opportunity to deal with it comprehensively at some point. May I refer you to page 90, Mr. Jonas? Yeah. 90. And if you go to page 93, you'll see that towards the middle of page 93, it's written there, Mcebisi Jonas. Is this a document which you have prepared?
Yes, I.
What was the purpose of preparing this document?
It was meant to be a follow-up to the public protector's report, interview, basically to just outline the timelines and the facts.
Yes. And you'll see that when you look on, if I may refer you back to page 90, there are two cell phone numbers reflected therein to be belonging to Mr. Fana Hlongwane. Can you see them? Mm. And if you go towards the middle of the page, there is another cell phone number which is indicated to be the one of Mr. Duduzane Zumaki.
Yes.
We won't mention them into the record in order to respect their privacy. Are these the numbers which they used when they called you or when they SMS you, yes, as you have referred to in a statement?
Yes, they are the numbers.
Yes. Now, in that document, you are dealing with the events. You are saying that before the meeting. For clarity's sake, which meeting are you referring to? If you go to page 90, it says before the meeting.
That is before the 23rd meeting.
23rd, which month?
October.
Which year? 2015 meeting.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And thereafter, if you go to page 91, you are saying it's reflected there in content of the meeting. Is it the same meeting of the 23rd?
23rd, yeah.
October 2015.
Yeah.
And you record there in what transpired at that meeting.
Yes.
Now, if you go to page 92, to avoid you having to read these documents again, I'm simply confirming what you did. And if you go to page 92, you have a heading also there that says post the meeting.
Yes.
This is the post the meeting which you have already testified before the chairperson in terms of your statement.
Yes.
Okay. And do you confirm also the contents?
Yes,
of
I
that
do.
template? Yes. Now, May I refer you to page 95 of the bundle, Mr. Chair? On the left-hand side, because there are two numberings. The right-hand side numbering, Mr. Chair, we can ignore it. It was the pagination when the matter was before the High Court. So we will be now referring to the left-hand side pagination. Mr. Jonas, do you follow?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Those affidavits, Mr. Jonas, they run from page 95 and they go up until page 121. And simply to familiarize yourself with them, those were the affidavits which were filed in the High Court matter between the Minister of Finance against Oak Bay and other companies associated with the Gupta family. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Now, if you may turn to page 96, you will see that is the affidavit which was deposed to by Mr. A.J. Kumar Gupta. Are you there?
Yeah.
I need to traverse with you some of the issues arising from these court papers which bears relevance to this inquiry. Now, could you please turn to page 94, page 97, I beg yours. And page 97, could you please read paragraph 4 so as we can appreciate the context upon which these papers were filed.
It is a well-known fact.
Page 97, paragraph 4.
97. Before I deal with this mischievous allegation raised and presented by Mr. Kodan, I need to read
page 97.
You are at paragraph 6 according to my bundle.
So
paragraph 4.
4.
Yeah, paragraph 4.
Oh, okay. I have been informed by Ronika Rigavan, the acting CEO of Oak Bay Group of Companies, that Minister of Finance, Mr. Pravin Jamadas Kodan, thought it wise to refer to an alleged incident with his Deputy Finance Minister, Mcebisi Jonas, during October 2015.
Yes. Before I deal with your affidavit responding to these affidavits, I need to capture the essence of Mr. Gupta's allegations in these court papers. May I refer you to page 98?
Yeah.
And then could you please read paragraph 10?
It is a well-known fact that I record that I employed all reasonable efforts to be afforded an opportunity to address the then public protector, Advocate Thuli Madonsela, prior to the date of her issuing of her report. I further submit that it was on my instance and my request that the then public protector afforded me a single opportunity to address her on or about 4 October 2016. That opportunity so afforded was insufficient and clearly rushed.
Yes, before we deal with your answers, can you also turn to page 98 and read in paragraph 11?
11.
99.
Advocate Madonsela undertook to furnish me with copies of evidence given by relevant witnesses. I was indeed furnished with a transcribed version of evidence of Mr. Mcebisi Jonas and his written statement regarding the alleged meeting at the house in Saxon Well.
Yes, so he's raising the issues that we are canvassing for the purpose of this inquiry. Now, can you go on the same page to paragraph 14 and read same into the record?
Let me commence this portion of my affidavit by clearly and unambiguously state under oath, I have never met Mcebisi Jonas, not as alleged or at all.
Yes, and the next page.
The fact of the matter is that Mr. Jonas, with respect, blatantly dishonest when he suggests that he met with me or that I attended a meeting with him.
Now, thus far, that captures the gist of,
Yeah.
or the essence of the allegations by Mr. Gupta and how he's dealing with those allegations pertaining to the meeting of the 23rd October 2015. May I refer you to page 103? And let's deal with paragraph 27.
In order to support that, I have said herein I have approached Mr. Duduzane Zuma to depose the confirmatory affidavit with regards to the involvement in the meeting conducted by Mr. Jonas, with Mr. Jonas. Through his attorney, Mr. Christo Stockenstrom, I contacted Mr. Fanahlonga to depose a confirmatory affidavit regarding my involvement on the meeting. I append here to as annexures AG1 and AG2. The said affidavits to which the Honorable Court is kindly referred.
Now, in that paragraph, Mr. Gupta places reliance on the confirmatory affidavit of Mr. Hlongwane and Mr. Duduzane Zuma. Am I correct?
Yes.
Before we deal with those confirmatory affidavits, could you please again remind us the date of the meeting at the Saxon World?
It was the 23rd of October in 2015.
Yes. Now, could you please turn to page 106? It goes up until 107. That is the confirmatory affidavit of Mr. Fanahlongwane in support of the affidavit of Mr. Gupta as referred to in the paragraphs that I've dealt with you. Do you recall?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, please read paragraph 3 and 4 into the record.
I have read the affidavit deposed to Mr. Ajay Kumar Gupta and confirm the contents thereof, in as far as it refers to any acts or conducts which I have been involved in, and confirm the correctness thereof. Paragraph 4. Further to the aforesaid, I confirm that Mr. Ajay Kumar Gupta was not present at any time during the meeting with Mr. Jonas held on the 25th October 2017.
Now, that confirmatory affidavit refers to the 25th October 2017. Did you hold any meeting with Mr. Hlongwane?
No, I didn't.
On the 25th October 2017. May I refer you to page 109? Are you there?
Yes, I am.
That is the confirmatory affidavit of Mr. Duduzane Zuma. If you turn to page 110, Mr. Chairperson, paragraph 3 and 4, Mr. Jonas, do you agree that they are identical to that one of Mr. Hlongwane?
They are identical, yes.
Fundamentally, paragraph 4 also refers to a meeting with Jonas held on the 25th October 2017. And you have already testified that you have never referred to any meeting of the 25th October 2017.
Yes, it is correct.
Now, may I refer you to page 112?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mkwena, before you move to another page. Paragraph 3 of the affidavit of Mr. Duduzane Zuma, and I think paragraph 3 of Mr. Fanahlongwane's affidavit, they also both seem to be identical.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Now, paragraph 3 of those two affidavits, in each one of them says they have read the affidavit deposed to by Mr. Ajay Kumar Gupta and confirm the contents thereof, and I quote, insofar as it refers to any acts or conduct which I have been involved in, and confirm the correctness thereof. You may or may not be able to say this, but do you understand what they say they are confirming there, having regard to the contents of Mr. Gupta's affidavit? Does it make sense?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Because I didn't pick up, I may be mistaken, anything that Mr. Gupta says in his affidavit they did. Maybe I've misread, but they are saying in paragraph 3, what they are confirming is the contents of his affidavit, quote, in as far as it refers to any acts or conduct which I have been involved in.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what at some stage in the life of this commission you might wish to make of that, but I just, my eye caught that.
Yes. You'd recall, Mr. Chair, that in an introduction to this question, we referred to the context upon which these affidavits were made,
Yeah.
and more importantly, emphasize the meeting and the offer which was made at Saxon Well.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Hlongwane and Mr. Duduzane Zuma seem to be confirming a date that does not support what is sought to be supported by Mr. Gupta in his affidavit. That's the essence. But it will become much more clearer because we are now going to the specific answers proffered by Mr. Jonas in relation to those confirmatory affidavits and the allegations in question.
Thank you.
May I refer you to page 112, Mr. Jonas, in order to clarify the issues for the chair. Are you there?
I'm there, yes.
And then that document goes up until page 121. If you can go to page 121. Remember, the numbering is on the left-hand side this time, not the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And is that your signature?
Yes.
And is this the affidavit that you filed in response to the affidavit of Mr. A.J. Gupta?
It is.
Yes. Now, may I refer you to page 113? If you may read for the chair paragraph 3 and skip paragraph 4 and read paragraph 5.
I have been referred to affidavits sought to be filed by the Oak Bay respondents, purportedly as fourth set of affidavits. I understand that these follow not only the closing of affidavit, but also the heads of argument filed on behalf of the Minister and the Reserve Bank, and the bank cited as further respondents. The affidavits purport to deal with the minister's replying affidavit and the report on state capture by public protector. The latter was published over 10 weeks ago, but after the founding affidavit was filed.
Now let's go to paragraph 5.
Now, in the Oak Bay respondents' purported fourth set of affidavit, Mr. Ajay Gupta criticizes the public protector report for accepting my version, or to use the words Mr. Ajay himself chose in the fourth set of affidavits, for having latched onto my version, paragraph 17. What Mr. Gupta does not disclose, however, let alone address, is that the public protector's report records evidence which contradicts Mr. Gupta's version. See paragraphs 5.24 and 5.25 of the report attached. marked MJ1. Mr. Gupta purported affidavit does not deny or explain this, nor did he do so in his previous affidavit filed together with the OGBE's main answering affidavit. Yet Mr. Gupta now not only seeks to imply that the public protector was wrong, but also seeks to call me blatantly dishonest in paragraph 15.
Yes. You also dealt with the confirmatory affidavits which were filed by Mr. Songwani and Mr. Duduzane Zuma. May I refer you to page 116?
Yeah.
Starting from paragraph 12 to page 1118, paragraph 16, that will clarify some of the questions that the chair were seeking clarity upon.
Mr. Gupta does not suggest that the incident to which he refers involving me was created by the applicant or me. It was not created by either of us. The incident certainly did occur. This is confirmed by the confirmatory affidavit to Mr. Gupta's own affidavit, deposed by the two individuals who scheduled the meeting and took me to the Gupta residence. Both confirmatory affidavits confirm explicitly that the meeting indeed occurred. All that they seek to do is to confirm that Mr. Ajay Gupta was not present during the 25th October 2017. I refer in this respect to paragraph 4 of the identical confirmatory affidavit. Apart from confirming absence of Mr. Ajay Gupta, they only confirm the contents of Mr. Gupta's affidavit in as far as it refers to any acts conducted which conducts which I could have been involved in paragraph 3. The confirmatory affidavits do not suggest that any other member of the Gupta family was absent from the meeting. This is significant because the public protector report itself refers variously to Gupta brother in attendance, Atul in paragraph 27, paragraph 26, paragraph 30, paragraph 26, attached mark MJ2, and Ajay amongst others in paragraph page 5, paragraph 4, attached mark MJ3. I did not previously encounter either of these two brothers. I'm only able to identify them from photos and footage in media. My own statement attached to some of these of the bank affidavits, which as mentioned, the OGBE respondents elected not to address, only to refer to members of the Gupta family, see e.g. record volume 2, page 173, paragraph 6. Therefore, even where Mr. Ajay Gupta's allegation, which merely seek to absent himself from the meeting, but without explaining why the meeting was held at the Gupta residence or suggesting that he was unaware that it would be held there or authorized that the Gupta residence be used for this purpose. To be truthful, which I deny, then the primary fact regarding the members of the Gupta family remains a common cause. Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
The correct facts regarding Mr. Ajay Gupta himself is, in short, as follows. Met him at Saxon World residence on 23rd October 2015 together with Messieurs Duduzane Zuma and Hlongwane. Mr. Gupta indicated to me I understood clearly the Gupta family and its interest had been gathering intelligence on me, including those close to me. They were aware of my activity and connections with senior members of the African National Congress. They were going to make me Minister of Finance collectively as a family. They make a lot of money from the state, that they intend to increase that to about 8 billion, from 8 billion rand, from 6 billion rand currently, and that the bulk of their money is stashed in Dubai. They have determined that the National Treasury is a stumbling block to their ambitions of making money from the South African government. They have made Mr. Duduzane a billionaire, including a house he has in Dubai. Mr. Gupta is offering me 600 million rand to be deposited in an account of my choice. And if I had a bag that could carry 600 million, then I could get
600,000
rands. Then I could get that amount there and then.
Yes, and you also dealt with paragraph 27 of the Gupta's affidavit. May I refer you to page 120?
Yeah.
And paragraph, the last paragraph, paragraph 26.
This paragraph refers to the confirmatory affidavit of Messias Duduzane Zuma and Hlongwane. They have been approached, Mr. Gupta states, to confirm his involvement at the meeting in October 2015. In turn, these affidavits state that Mr. Ajay Kumar Gupta was not present at any time during the meeting with Mr. Jonas held on the 25th October 2017. Paragraph 4 of both confirmatory affidavits, both identical in terms and both deposed at Table Bay Harbour. Even if one is to understand the reference to be to 25th October 2015 instead of 2017, then the confirmatory affidavits remain materially defective. This is because, as I have stated on end, as I have stated, and the Public Protector Report records, the relevant meeting occurred on the 23rd October 2015. Therefore, the absence of Mr. Ajay Gupta at a meeting 2 days later in October 2015 fails to confirm the necessary allegation. In any event, as indicated above, as would be fully apparent to all three deponents, the key issue is that the meeting with the events I have described took place at Sasonwell compound, shared by the Gupta brothers and their families, and that a Gupta brother was present.
Yes. Now, I want to take you back to your evidence that you adduced before the chairperson earlier on, and I'm testing that against the fact that, South Africa is a democratic constitutional state. If you may turn back to your statement in paragraph 2, you referred to the removals and appointments of certain officials, including yourself. What I want to know from you, is there any protocol that has to be observed, pertaining to the appointments of members of cabinet?
Yes, there is. I mean, in the normal course, I mean, the normal process is a consultative process between the ruling, upon winning the elections, of course, Mr. Chair. There's a consultative process between the ruling party leadership and the president of the ruling party, and therefore the president of the country, around who are the individuals who would be deployed in government. And out of that process, normally you would get probably whatever number or list and names, but then ultimately the responsibility lies with the president, and he will choose from that. And under normal circumstances, the president will inform the individuals appointed and their positions. In the case of dismissal, normally the same procedure happens. I mean, you have to be, normally you are, whether it's a phone call sometimes, and whether you are called to be told, but there is some courtesy accorded to the persons appointed.
And you are now referring to what is expected or under normal circumstances?
I'm saying under normal circumstances.
That's what should happen.
Process, yeah.
Yes. And also, can you share with us whether is there any protocol in the announcement of the, appointments?
Really, I don't think that there is a strict protocol, except that normally the announcement is made after the individuals would be knowing that they are not making it or they are making it into. So it's normally not a surprise. Yes. That's the whole point I'm trying to make.
Now let's deal with the removals. Is there any protocol in relation to the removal? It's the same thing.
It's the same phenomenon. Courtesy, public courtesy prevails, that you have to be informed that you are no longer in that position. You're being removed before the announcement is made.
I'm asking these questions against the background whereby either the removals or the appointments would usually happen at midnight or at 2 o'clock. The question is whether, from your own experience, do you know if in relation to the ones that you have referred to in paragraph 2, whether such protocol was observed?
No, I mean, look, I mean, probably in terms of appointments they were, but in the dismissals, my recollection is that probably Minister Nene was accorded the opportunity of being told after a cabinet meeting. But my recollection is that Minister Godan and myself were never informed. So we, in the midnight, in the comfort of our beds, probably we were woken up by telephone calls saying, watch TV.
Yes. Now, may I refer you to paragraph, if I'm not mistaken, it's paragraph 43. Of your statement. In fact, I need a paragraph where you are referring to the turbulence period in our country. You did not really specify to the chairperson what you meant by that. What was the country experiencing at the time? What was that? Paragraph 45, I'm indebted to my learned colleague. Paragraph 45. You are saying that shortly after Mr. Goran was appointed as minister, we met and discussed the various pressure points that the treasurer was facing, particularly how we would deal with the aftermath of the removal of Mr. Nene and the appointment of Mr. Van Rooyen. We also discussed in detail in this context the events which had taken place at the Gupta residence. But I just want you to expand more as to what the country was experiencing at the time.
Look, I mean, in the first instance, I think the big issue was clearly the removal of Minister Nene itself had dealt a blow to the credibility of South Africa and the state.
And what was the response of the market to
the markets tumbled? The markets tumbled. We lost billions of rands as a country, and in fact, the economy and the business confidence in the country tumbled.
What was the performance of the rand at the time?
It probably tumbled itself, and I mean, it increased. I mean, the rand weakened quite substantially, and a whole range of things, I mean, happened after that. I mean, low confidence normally leads to low investment, and.
Yes, and what was the effects, you know, I mean, that such a conduct had on the credit ratings of South Africa?
It really dashed them, actually, badly. I mean, we were probably in the worst state since the dawn of democracy, as it were, in that period, as it were. But also, more importantly, I think it also created a downward path for the country economically from that period. I mean, I don't think we've since recovered, quite frankly, from that.
And how did this, you know, also, you know, affect the ability of, you know, South Africa to borrow on capital markets?
It had a negative effect on across the board. I mean, in financial markets.
Now,
and I think what also aggravated it is that some of the factors that led to Nene's firing, which is the nuclear deal, which was a big issue, because essentially from where we're sitting as Treasury, we felt that South Africa could just not afford, I mean, the nuclear deal as it was structured. But secondly, also, there was also, I think, a moral, ethical question about public finance, whether you can, what kind of debt can you raise for future generations? And is it justifiable? Is it ethical? And from our view, we thought that it was also not justifiable or ethical to actually raise that amount of debt for South Africa.
And how did these, events play themselves out within the Treasury Department itself? What was the morale of the staff of the Treasury when these things were happening?
I mean,
and the
really,
functions of Treasury.
It really knocked the morale quite substantially. I think were it not for probably the enthusiasm of the Minister Kodan, we could have probably been in a worse situation, I think, in that case. But also, I think the functionality of the Ministry of Finance was seriously affected in the sense that, I mean, in that period, Mr. Chair, it was a period where it was clear, I mean, you didn't have to guess that confidence in the Minister of Finance was lost. And the Minister of Finance was, the Ministry of Finance was increasingly isolated in government business.
May I refer you to page 14 of the bundle, just to also clarify some of the issues. Page 14.
Yeah, lost it, My bundle seems to have collapsed now, erupted. Yeah,
Don't collapse now, Mr. Jonas. We still need
I'm sorry, what page did you say, Mr. Mkwani?
14 of the bundle, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay.
There is only one numbering, I hope, on that page. 32. Typed.
Yeah, I think what may have happened with Mr. Jonas' bundle is what may arise from how the papers or pages have been put together. It may well be that it might be more convenient if it was maybe a small lever arch file,
Yes.
where it would be easy to page through without papers coming out of the bundle.
We take note of that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Are you there, Mr. Jonas?
page 14.
Yeah, 14.
Yes, I'm there.
14. Are you there?
40.
Yeah. No, 14, not 40.
I'm there.
You recall that when you testified, you informed the chairperson that you were made an offer on the 23rd of October 2015. You recall that?
Yes, I do.
Now, we know also from your evidence that the first time that you made a media or you released a media statement was around the 16th March 2016. And the question is that, why did it take you such a long time before you went public with the offers? And asking that against, your constitutional obligations, at least to deal with these things squarely.
Look, in the first instance, I think I stated earlier on that my confidence in some of the criminal justice system was very low at the time. I mean, and it's probably hasn't improved much, I must say, but it was very low at the time. It was completely low. I mean, I've been in government. I've seen cases being given, charges being sent, and nothing happening, and so on, so on, so on. So I was very clear that what you have, was a criminal justice system that was in a crisis, actually. The second problem was that I think, remember that at the end of the day, we were operating in a political environment, so I had to kind of think, about the tensions and the dynamics that were there, and so on and so on, and try to ensure that I do not find myself being compromised. To be honest, if you record the way the reaction to the statement actually still confirms that actually it was a time when the whole sway politically was in favor of state capture and corruption, actually, at a political level. But thirdly, I think we in that course, we consulted lawyers, by the way, to actually ask them whether is there pressure to to do this now at the particular point immediately, or whether we should kind of let the ride and eventually see. And we got legal opinion to say there was no real obligation in terms of time when we do it. And remember that also there was a reality of possibility of reprisals around this thing.
Yes.
So we were vulnerable.
Now, may I refer you to page 134 of the bundle? Whenever I'm referring you to page numbers, I become nervous that we might not be on the same page.
No, I've got it.
You'll see that page 134, that document goes up until page 137.
137.
Is that your cell phone record, Mr. Jonas?
Where is that now?
Page 134.
34.
Yes, that document starts from 134 to 137. I'm seeing that is that document, your telephone record, your cell phone record.
I think it's the last document in the
Oh,
bundle.
yeah, yes, it is. It is.
It is.
Yes.
Now, you will recall that there are certain numbers which we have identified to be the ones belonging to Mr. Hlongwane and the one also belonging to Mr. Duduzane Zuma, you recall,
Yes, I do.
in relation, with reference to page 90,
Yeah.
which was your timeline document.
Yes.
I don't want to go through the laborious way of dealing with this thing. If you go to those pages, you'll see that we've taken the liberty through you, as we are guided by you, that certain numbers were marked, and there are markings in blue and there are markings in orange. Can you see that?
Yes, I do.
The numbers in relation to that are marked in blue, would those be the ones of Mr. Hlongwane?
Yes.
The ones that are marked in orange, would those be the ones of Mr. Duduzane Zuma?
Yes, it is.
Yes. And they appear throughout these four pages that you have annexed to the bundle.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Chair, Mr. Trengroff has indicated that there might be some clarification questions that he wants to pose. We also intend to address the chair in not closing the evidence of this witness. We'll explain the reasons why. May this be an opportune time to offer Mr. Trengroff that opportunity. You're fine. Mr. Chair.
Well, if Mr. Trengov wishes to put some questions to the witness, he would have to apply. Number one. Number two, I'm open to persuasion, but I would be disinclined to allow witness counsel to just put clarificatory questions. As I say, that's my inclination, and I'm open to persuasion. I would think that probably clarificatory questions could be passed on to counsel for the Commission's legal team to put through. But as I say, I'm open to persuasion on the matter, and maybe during the lunch break there might be a way to discuss the matter among between the Commission's legal team and Mr. Trengov. Let me also say that the Democratic Alliance had requested that they be allowed to, as they put it, participate in the proceedings of this commission. And when they were asked exactly what they meant by participating in these proceedings, one of the things they said was that they wanted an opportunity or a permission to examine witnesses who came before the commission to give evidence. I made a decision which I believe was made public and distributed, where I said that I didn't think that the grounds which they advanced conferred upon them the right to be able to examine witnesses who came before the commission. Of course, the ground that they advanced was that they had been one of the complainants who had lodged complaints with the public protector, and basically that complaint that they had lodged had not been, its investigation had not been finalized and would be, would continue to be investigated by this commission. That, of course, is not the same ground on which Mr. Trengov, if he seeks to put certain questions to the witness, would be advancing. It would be a different ground. But I'm mentioning these things to just let Mr. Trengov and everyone concerned, one, about a decision that was made, two, about the fact, about what my inclination is, three, about the fact that I am open to persuasion, but it's much better, I know, as counsel, when you know what the judge's thinking might be. So my suggestion would be that during the lunch break, maybe some discussion as may be necessary would be taken, and then maybe when we resume, we can take it from there.
Chair, if I may, just for clarification's sake.
Yes, yes.
My client has been so thoroughly led that I don't have any further questions to ask.
Oh, well, Mr. Trengov, after that statement by you, I think that really other counsel will realize that the legal team of the commission is doing a good job. Thank you very much. We are grateful to you, Mr. Trengov, for your cooperation.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that leaves us with one aspect, and that is the issue pertaining to whether or not to close the evidence in chief of this witness. We would want to make submissions. Either we do them now or we can do them after lunch.
We are on my watch. We are at 9 minutes to 1. One, we want to use every time that we have to do the work that we have, we are called upon to do. But two, it might not make, in certain circumstances, much sense to try and use 10 minutes if you are going into a new issue. So I'm quite happy to let you decide whether you want to deal with that now or whether we should take an early lunch break and then continue after lunch.
We would prefer to adjourn at the stage, Mr. Chair, in order to see also whether did I canvass all other issues.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Mr. Jonas, we are going to adjourn and return here at 2 o'clock. So we'll adjourn the proceedings until 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please rise.